Tuesday, December 12th, library board meeting.
How are you? Good to see you.
Tricia.
Hello.
I would like to comment on the agenda item number 1 at the Merriam, the Antioch branch item.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead and sign in. Right here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to comment at the beginning or at the time of that item?
During public comments.
During public
yeah.
comment?
Yeah. So that'll be right at the top, and then I'll also let other folks know that you are. So then.
Yeah. Right? That's true. Yeah.
Then you'll speak up at that podium.
Okay.
Up there, so yeah, you can sit wherever you'd like, and then it's kind of at the top of the agenda, so you can hop up there.
Chris isn't here.
Yeah, someplace from, so we came separately.
Ah,
He's right there. It's not always that. We're in close to town.
yes it is. Well, if he doesn't make it, you're here.
Yeah.
If anyone can
They were, Tricia was fortunate enough to be at our meeting. That's beautiful.
if anyone can speak on behalf of Miriam, that'd be you, wouldn't it?
Always just talking. Hi there.
Howdy. You mind if I sit this over here?
No, go
See
ahead.
the room better.
It's not a selfie, is it? I'm not taking a picture of myself.
Only if you're talking today.
How are you? I'm all right. Yourself? Good. Angel. Yeah.
Thank you.
Danny?
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Johnson County Library Board of Directors regular meeting for December 2024 to order. It's now 4 p.m. and we'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And I understand we do have a citizen comment today. Could I have Billy Crone come up to the podium, please? And you'll have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Billy Crone. I'm a resident of the city of Merriam. I've been following our community center project since 2017, 2016, when it was just, drawings on a board, and now it's obviously all here. It's physically built. The library is a part of that. What I would like to note is that the land the library was built on was given from the city to the library some 4 years ago, 6 years ago. It's all the years before COVID kind of threw together. But it was given for $1. It was given, used to be Vavre Park in Merriam, and I think it had some value to our community as a park. Obviously, it's something different now. But for $1, it was given to the library to build a new location there. And tonight, you're going to be talking about selling the land at the old location to the city for $4 million, which I believe is the fair market value, as noted in the packet. Obviously, the land that was given to the library was not sold at fair market value. It was given much less because it's cooperation between two different areas of governments that work together to serve the people of this county and the city of Merriam. And I think in the same spirit, it would be nice to give that land back to Merriam, the land from the old building, or at least at some reduced rate to the city, so that ultimately the taxpayers who pay that bill pay less. Again, it's the same group of people that we're serving. So that's my sentiment. I'm just one person, but I'm glad to share that with you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have any comments from the Board of Directors? Well, seeing none, I'll just report on what I'm currently reading real quick. Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is definitely way out of my comfort zone, and I'm reading it for a book club, but I haven't gotten too engrossed in it, so I'm gonna try to keep pushing through. And then the other one I'm reading is College Girl Missing, true story of how a young woman disappeared in plain sight. This is definitely up my alley. I am obsessed with true crime podcasts and read a lot of true crime, so I'll report back to see if they solved the mystery. All right. Commissioner Alan Grant is not with us today.
No, I haven't heard from her. I know they have a big retirement celebration going on, so my guess is that she is helping celebrate Joe Connor, who's retiring from the county manager's office.
Oh, wonderful. All right, then let's bring up Amber Borg Slater to report on development.
All right, thank you so much to the board for allowing me the opportunity to highlight a few of the things happening with our Volunteers, Friends, and Foundation. Construction has begun on the Friends' new pop-up sales space at the Pine Ridge Business Complex. If you're Friends members, you may have gotten the email with the pictures in it. They're really excited because the space is next door to their current space and will allow them to double their square footage. They anticipate it being complete in early 2025. Then we have a group of volunteers that will reassemble the bookcases from our former Antioch branch in the new sales space. So the Friends want to say thank you so much for allowing them those shelves to put in their new space. Planning is also underway for 2025, of course, in the development department. And one of the things our foundation is working on with our library staff is pursuing private funding to purchase early literacy interactive wall units, that's a mouthful, for our Spring Hill and DeSoto branches. These are the last two locations in our system that do not have our early literacy units. And so we estimate needing to raise between $20,000 and $40,000 to create these custom units. And they'll be similar to the one most recently installed at our Merriam Plaza branch. Do you guys have any questions I can answer? All right, thanks. And hopefully I see some of you tomorrow at our volunteer end of year potluck.
Okay, now on to the board council report with Fred Logan.
Thank you. I've been asked to comment on a couple of items, and I'm going to start with the section of your administrative regulation manual 50-2070 on the personal transfer of library property. You have an agenda item this evening to consider the sale of Antioch properties to the city of Merriam, and subsection B of the regulation explicitly authorizes the board to sell real property through private sale if it so approves. This is particularly appropriate in an instance such as this one, where there was considerable discussion between officials from the city of Merriam, the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and the county manager and the county librarian about the acquisition of the property and support at the county level for doing that from the library selling to the city. The county's participation in this survey discussion is particularly relevant because you will recall that under the library statute, when you acquire or sell library property, it also that action begins with you, with approval, and then the Board of County Commissioners must ratify the action. So that's the steps that you take, and I think that's a good explanation of how that regulation works. Let me comment on the second item, which is, we were asked to explain the role that we take as council in reviewing library contracts. And we spend, the way it works is, I think it's best to look at it as a multi-step process. The staff first begins with any review and development of an agreement or contract. It starts at the staff level, it moves to the county librarian level, and then it comes to us for a review from a legal perspective. What I thought maybe the best way that I could explain how we work is just to look at this year. Just at this year alone, some of the agreements that we've been asked to review. In January, we took a look at agreements relating to security cameras. And that involved multiple parties, library staff, Board of County Commissioners, and even law enforcement. In January and February, we reviewed a surplus property resolution with respect to the Antioch Library, set that up for board approval. And then in December, this month, of course, we have the city now with an agreement to purchase the Antioch properties. In February and October, you were involved in a process on possibly replacing Corinth on City of Prairie Village property. We developed those agreements on that, participated in that review. This evening, you're going to consider about library review of Corinth and other property. Actually, it's not yet a board matter, but that's going to be under consideration at some point. And then in March and April, the Lackman sale, and in March, the West Wall Foundation project. So those are just the most significant agreements, and then there are program agreements that we review with public agencies, the businesses, for example, on co-sponsorship of events with the Johnson County Genealogical Society, recently reviewed an MOU with Catholic Charities, with DTI Ames, the county agency. So we work very closely with library staff in reviewing agreements so that when an agreement either comes to the county librarian for approval and execution if it's under the limit of $150,000, or if it's a different kind of agreement, any real estate agreement is always going to come to you for approval, whether it's county librarian or the board. You may be assured there's been a very thorough staff and council review of those agreements. So I think that gives you a pretty good overview. Any questions? Okay, thank you. That's what it's for.
And now on to County Librarian report. Tricia?
Thank you. I'll have Dave Rodney and then ultimately Shelley O'Brien come forward. Dave with the financial report.
Thank you, Tricia. Good afternoon, board. I'm going to go ahead and guide you to page 9 in your board report. That's the Johnson County Library Total Revenue Report. We're reporting on how we finished up the end of October of 2024. So as of October 31st, the library had collected almost $52.1 million, which is over 89% of our budgeted revenue. And I will note that if you factored out the planned use of reserves that the library is making of $6.87 million for 2024, we've already collected as much revenue as we expected to collect for 2024. Now, that's all being helped out by the sale of Lackman, which you see as a sale of capital assets of $1.92 million on that report. So we're doing good there. We obviously have 2 more months, and we'll be collecting some more revenue over that span of time. And then from an expenditure standpoint, we have total obligations as of the end of October of a little over $48.4 million, which is about 83%. So it's tracking well with where we are at this point in the year. And that's all total obligations, not including open encumbrances. If you took just the open encumbrances out of there, we're probably around 79%. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Followed by Shelley O'Brien with the Executive Director of the Foundation.
Good evening. Tonight, Shelley O'Brien Tonight, we're going to be looking at statistics from both the foundation, the friends, and volunteers, and kind of want to tell you how the year has been going. This year, the report may be a little bit more exciting since it's the second time I've given it, and give some more stories about trends that we see and what is going on in development right now. So, just a quick reminder, this is our logo that we use, that it HELP stands for volunteers, join means the friends because it's membership based, and give to the foundation since it's donation based. So the first chart we're going to look at is the number of volunteers. And we had Amber Bork-Slater up here a little while ago. She spends a lot of time putting together the puzzle, is what she calls it, of matching the right volunteer job with the right volunteer. And that's what it is. It's a lot of making sure we can meet the needs of the volunteers and then they can help us with needs that we have. As you can see, we're right on track to be about the same number this year as we were for last year. That was somewhat on purpose because of Sort 2 going on and the reorganization. And also, one of the things that Amber likes to say a lot is that really we have such a good retention of volunteers who are doing such high quality work that sometimes stable is the absolute best. Because they know what they're doing, we depend on them, and they're fantastic. Next slide, please. The hours are about the same as last year too, though we don't expect to get here at the end of the year up to the 42,000 because the Friends have had a small dip in the number of volunteer hours. They're having some equipment issues in the sorting center right now and just have not needed the volunteer hours, but it should remain pretty steady. Next slide, please. As we are coming to the end of the staff reorganization, I think what we're going to see is new opportunities coming up. And Amber is working with a lot of the library staff on trying new things out. So for example, one of the new things that Amber is working on is on days that we have a lot of programs and events, having a greeter at the front door. We're going to test it out, see if it works, if it's needed, if it provides more customer service. And someone who can kind of direct traffic might free up some of our staff at the different assignments. We want to also look at what opportunities we have for teens. We know that a lot of teens in the area need service hours. Some of that can be independent with writing book reviews, and they do a fantastic job with that. But also there's opportunities here in the building with all sorts of things. And as Amber noted earlier, the Friends will need additional staff with the additional space and hopefully more book sales. So that's going to expand by quite a bit. Now on to the Friends. We'll see the number of memberships which they've already surpassed last year with 915. I think what they're seeing right now is a lot of retention, people renewing their Friends membership. I also think they've been so smart in sticking with advocacy. I think a lot of people see that as an avenue for them. That means, and it's small things. It's things like writing thank you notes to the Board of County Commissioners. It means going up to Topeka in January. They're planning a Kansas Library Association Day where we'll go up and talk to our state reps. And so it's one of those things that I think it gets more people involved. It's not just a membership, but it's a membership that they actively are using. So again, we're looking at increased membership, which Amber again is focusing on. Additional space, meaning more book sales, and a lot of the people who become members through book sales. They hear about the opportunities while purchasing books on a Saturday. And I just think it's a very solid base of revenue for the Friends that just keeps their organization very stable. And finally, looking at the foundation, right now, this is kind of our prediction of our endowment accounts and how much we might be doing if the
markets stay stable with our endowment accounts here at the end of the year, we are looking at anywhere from 125 to 133,000 being donated back to the library this year. Markets have been good, about an 11% return, and we've had some planned giving donations that have added to the endowment. Next slide. Fundraising is doing well this year. We're on target. We believe that here at the end of the year, we're going to raise about $21,000 in just $50 and $100 donations from people here at the end of the year that we depend on and appreciate, and we end up using all year round. So that's exciting. We also know that Library Let's Loose did really well this year. So we're hoping with additional staff and in the new year that we'll have more of a stable base with more staff hours. Next slide. Again, in 2025, we look at training this new staff. We are getting ready to hire 3 staff members, including moving a part-time clerk position to a full-time position, which actually is a really big deal for us. We spend a lot of time in the foundation. It's almost like running a small nonprofit because we have to do all the bookkeeping and forms and everything that a small business would do, or a small nonprofit. Also, we want to spend more time on stewardship, thanking people, and that's one of the joys of my job is this time of year especially, is we get to hear all the stories. So for example, on Monday night, I went to an event in Kansas City, and a family came up and asked me what I did for a living. We were chatting, and they said that their mother, who is in her 90s, lives across the street from Corinth and walks over every single day. And they talked about how wonderful the staff is, and they take care of her and saying hi. She gets her large print books. And so because of that, their family donates. And to me, that was just such a great example of some of the joy that we get to hear every day. That it's not always us asking, but it's often people coming to us and saying thank you. And this is a way that I can say thank you. Any questions on this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Commissioner Allen Brand, we can take a pause here and catch back up on your report if you're ready.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I need all the help I can. First of all, I don't really have anything to report. We're kind of, gearing down for the holiday season, and starting in January, we have swearing in for 3 commissioners. And I just want to thank this board for everything you do. I just always appreciate the volunteerism that goes on our board, and I think sometimes we don't take enough time to say thank you. It is a lot of work, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. And I had the best time at the retreat, just hearing about all the ideas and seeing the staff so excited, just listening to Shelley talk, how exciting that is. So that brings joy. So thank you so much.
We will have Megan Clark and Scott Sung to the podium for the Comprehensive Library Master Plan update.
Hello, good afternoon. Megan Clark, Project Coordinator of the Library. Providing an update here about Spring Hill and DeSoto renovations. Next slide. So, not a huge update today, still in the schematic design process. So, making our way through that and the architects today to see some ideas. And for our next steps, we're continuing with schematic design through the end of the year into early next year. Also, we expect an RFP to go out in the coming weeks as we seek a construction manager. And the construction manager can help us as we begin design development early next year. And we'll continue to update you on where we are in that process. But pretty stable today. For a timeline here, it's looking the same. I took out the little move out date because we don't have that identified yet and didn't want it to cause confusion on this slide. But we'll be providing that when we can. So stand for any questions.
Purified has meeting on Tuesday with, the city manager and the mayor of Spring Hill, along with the new commissioners that are going to be representing that district. Would it be okay if I show them this to kind of give them an update of what's going on?
Absolutely, yeah,
But
we love that.
Well, I appreciate your work because I know that they're excited about it.
Yeah.
There's, there's a lot of people in those areas that don't have, internet, and they rely on the library, and that's where they go to do the work. We're working on broadband now through the county, but still, there's so many. I heard about a student in Spring Hill that had to stand in her driveway. She
Yeah.
had COVID, had to give a report, and had to stand in the driveway to get internet.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, thank you.
Well, we are hoping it's gonna be an inviting place, especially, with the expansion we're doing at Spring Hill. We were just talking today about computers and how we're hoping more teens might enjoy the space in the future, so that's great to hear. Thank you.
The thing something I can share with you guys as well, I'm working right now with one of the researchers, so in those districts, we're gonna pinpoint the development that's coming in, where the job markets are at, the rate of pay, and what professions are coming forward. It may not show what the name of the development is, but it will show that there's development coming in because of the growth in that area. And that might help you guys as well.
That's great information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Scott, come to the podium now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just gonna adjust these for a second. Is that better? Okay, excellent. Scott Simon, Project and Event Manager for the library. I'll talk a little bit about our capital project timeline. Next slide, please. Here's a look at this thing that you've all been seeing every month for quite a while. Spring Hill and DeSoto, you just heard on from Megan. And then, otherwise, no changes since last time. Yeah, CRP is next. The big report I have for you today is about Central's west wall. Site work and drainage work are expected to be complete by the end of the year. I'm sorry, end of the year, end of the month, same thing in this case. And then the exterior waterproofing and interior work, the patching and painting, those things are finished. And then last thing to mention on CRP is our facilities partners are working on developing the 2025 capital replacement program slate of work. And we'll look forward to bringing that to you at an upcoming board meeting. Any questions about any of these things that you're seeing? Great, thanks.
Thank you very much, Scott. We'll start through the updates, and we'll have Catherine Fuller join us at the podium. She'll talk about the Writers' Conference, and as Catherine's coming to the podium, just welcoming our new employees in the front row here, who are having a great show outside with a lot of sizzle rolling around. So if anybody wants to join them out there, yeah, it looks like fun. So, but welcome to them. They had lots of great questions on Monday when I spent time with them, and we have people from kind of all over the library that are in this new class. So some promoting and some brand new stuff. So welcome to the library. Take it away, Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine Fuller, Program Specialist and a member of the Writers' Conference team. The Writers' Conference is one of the library's signature events. The purpose statement of the conference is to produce a signature resource that provides skill development and network opportunities for local writers. Next slide, please. Pictured is part of the program department who staff the conference events for that weekend. We have our managers, coordinators, specialists, and clerks. Not pictured is the remaining program staff, the communication staff, the branch and virtual staffs, volunteers, and even our county librarian and development director, all of whom pitched in to give support by answering phones, emails, picking up presenters from the airport, and directing patrons on that weekend. This was truly a group effort, and we want to give you all a huge shout out and thank you. Go back, please. A quick story related to our t-shirt designs. At last year's conference, patrons had the opportunity to use the heat press It's fine, we'll roll with it. Patrons have had the opportunity to use the heat press to make their own swag. Didn't quite land how we wanted it to. After gathering ideas from a national conference, we revamped and pre-printed some take-home iron-on vinyl pieces. As a thank you to the board for sparking that initial thought, each of you have a goodie bag with some of those iron-on vinyl pieces and some other conference knickknacks. Next slide, please. For the conference this year, we wanted to broaden our reach in the community. Pictured on the left, we collaborated with the Olathe Public Library for a writers social pre-conference party on the Thursday before our conference. We also had a multi-day collaboration with the Story Center at the Mid-Continent Library. Pictured top right, 4 of our Writers Contest winners were invited to do a reading and panel discussion during the Story Center's local author fair. Pictured bottom right, library staff hosted a table during that same fair on the Saturday. Next slide, please. The other part of that multi-day collaboration was us inviting a group from the local author fair to host a lunch hour panel discussion during our writers conference, which is pictured bottom left. Another community partnership we were excited about for our Friday conference was inviting the Mid-America Romance authors to host some drop-in activities for patrons between workshops and encourage them to share some of their writing on the Joko Writes blog. I do want to share one of those stories at the end of my presentation. We contracted with the local bookstore, Monstera's Books and Plant Shop in downtown Overland Park for the conference bookstore. They provided a small sample of each presenter's works along with plants, bookmarks, stickers, and other accessories for all patrons on that day. Next slide, please. Overall, we had overwhelmingly positive responses from everyone involved. For our Friday conference, we had 18 presenters, 17 workshops, 3 of which are recorded on our library YouTube channel, 4 new collaborations, 23 volunteers, 14 program staff, patron attendance. We had 250 patrons spread out over that Thursday, Friday, Saturday weekend events. We had 38 evaluations returned after the conference. The word cloud on the right was taken from the evaluation question. What word would you use to describe this year's conference? Next slide, please. So what's next? Due to high demand, we have rescheduled, or we have added an additional date in January for each conference book discussion. So we've got 2 rescheduled for January. For 2025 events, we're excited about new possibilities, excited about building on previous knowledge, and leaning on the years of combined experience that we have in the program department. In January, we will start working through different ideas, reaching wider audiences with more resources. That story from our Joko Writes blog, and this was from conference attendees. My wife and I both attended the writers' workshops. The most enjoyable session for me was the beta-reader matchup. During this session, we rotated around the room and practiced evaluating each other's stories. I was excited to get very encouraging responses for my main children's book story I had been working on. I'm so excited about it that I'm investigating getting it published. My wife is just beginning to write. She came away from her sessions excited and wrote down encouraging advice that she was given. We're all natural born storytellers. Go outside your comfort zone. Write to your emotions and the setting takes care of itself. Set daily goals. Set a time for writing every day. Just do it. You can't learn from your successes, only failures. Any questions?
I just want to say that thank you. This is wonderful. And this is why we do what we do. And shout out to Monsteras Books, my favorite local bookstore. I was happy to see them participate.
I did buy plants. I brought it home and my husband looked at me like I was crazy.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and Catherine's being pretty modest. She had a colleague who is usually in this seat, and that colleague had a life event, and Catherine and other colleagues stepped right in and handled it, and with complete professionalism, and did a wonderful job, and really allowed their colleague to go and handle their life event. So I really want to thank you. I know that day you were hustling and you had a lot of stuff going on, but nobody knew it, and I had talked to many people that day in the main session, and just of course they had similar wonderful things to say, which is a credit to you and to all the programming staff who've been a part of planning it. So thank you very much. Go ahead and invite Ashley Fick to the podium for our next update.
Hello, I'm Ashley Fick. I'm one of our program coordinators. I helped organize the election. It was all me, actually. So this year we did candidate forums with the Johnson County Post. It wasn't actually all me. So we had 8 nights of forums in libraries spread throughout the county, featuring Kansas State representatives, senators, county commissioners, the district attorney, the sheriff. They were on the ballot. We featured them. And so these were free, open to the public. Anyone that wanted to attend could attend. It was also live streamed, and then they were recorded and freely available through the Johnson County Post after the fact. So we also had a longtime staff member who I'd known her little girl since she was about this tall. She got to vote in her very first election, came to the candidate forum, got to hear from the candidates, got to meet the candidates, and I just thought that was, for me, that was really special. So, and I think it is a testament to what these can do. So we also featured voting displays with relevant forms, application, and voter guides from the Kansas City Media Collective, the Johnson County Post, and all the resources were available in both English and Spanish, also throughout all the branches, in addition to the forums. And then the next slide. Voting day numbers. So these are how many people came and voted at each of our locations on election day. So Central 1, you see that? And then Lenexa City Center is an early voting site, but is not an election day polling site. And voter turnout this year in Johnson County was 72.79%. So we had big numbers at our 7 polling places. Also, our friends, thank you to them, they bought donuts for poll workers, and they delivered them at all 7 locations early in the morning. And I think coffee too. Is that right, Shelley? Coffee and donuts. So thank you to them for supporting our election workers. And then I think, yep, and then door counts, so you can see how many more people are in our buildings on election day. It's pretty stark. It's a big jump when we host elections. So here are the dates for advance. Monticello hosts an extra week beyond everyone else, so they have some extra time. And Monticello is popular. So I could start singing Wicked. But also I was struck by Shawnee. I just want to call that out because that's a small little room, and it's kind of, at a surprise. They beat Central, so yay Shawnee. So, and then from branch staff, I asked around what they like about the election. And so one staff member told me that they really like hearing the applause because they celebrate every first-time voter. So they know they get to hear it when there's a first-time voter. So that's a special thing. Also, this year was the first Kids Vote that the elections office hosted. Oh, it's actually in the corner, so you can't quite see it here in this photo. But the Kids Vote winners, I thought you all might be interested. Favorite sports team, Chiefs. Favorite superhero, Wonder Woman. And then their favorite food, ice cream. So, tacos was on the ballot, and I didn't win. That's my favorite, though. So, and then our advanced voting numbers. So, again, the door counts, you can see there's a stark difference when we have the elections in the building. People that we wouldn't normally have are coming through the doors. So, and that's an opportunity. And then our next slide. Okay, and then so we did have an electioneering complaint that happened at our Lenexa library. So if you were in the Lenexa library when there was a long line and it went past the magazines, and a voter saw on the cover of Newsweek and the ARRP bulletin, both had pictures of Harris and Trump on the covers along with headlines that referred to the election. The voter complained to the supervising judge. The supervising judge approached staff and instructed that the magazines needed to be taken down. Staff let the supervising judge know that the magazines were part of the collection and would not be removed. The compromise was that they put the magazines behind the desk and assigned instructing people where to go to receive the magazines. Also, the elections office requested that our Kansas City media collective guides were removed at polling places, not other locations, but at the polling places. So we did that during the duration of the early voting sites and on election day. And our next steps are we're working with our operations staff to create a list of potential conflicts that might occur. We're going to seek out advice from the elections office and our legal counsel, and our goal is to protect the library and collections while also supporting the voting in the polling places. Any questions?
By behind the desk, we mean like if somebody wanted to get the ARP bulletin, they had to go to the information desk and ask them for it, like it wasn't displayed somewhere else or something?
Correct, yeah. They put a temporary sign up saying where it would be.
Thank you. I just want to say congratulations. I mean, to think that you had one complaint out of that many thousands of people were voting says a lot about what you were doing. And I'm glad that you brought up about the children's voting. I thought that was really an awesome thing to do. I know that our staff was counting it one day and there was 3,000 votes on one day from children, and I thought that, helps teach them how to vote. So, well, great job. I don't know if you know that Fred Sherman won an award through the Bar Association for the election running smoothly, and a lot that it had to do with your staff and one of the areas that you had. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And Fred Sherman is wonderful to work with.
Well, I'm not going to talk about it.
Next year we'll tell you. Thank you very much, Ashley, for all your guys' work. All right, Ben Sons is up next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ben Sons, Associate Director for Customer Experience here at the library. And next on today's agenda is to talk about a library weather closing procedure. So in the update today, this is just a reminder of how we do that since winter is coming. And I think we've already had snow in one winter weather advisory. The reference for this is ARM 2010-12, and the board approved that ARM just this past February 8th of this year's February 8th. And that ARM essentially gives the authority to the county librarian or designee the authority to make a decision in bad weather to close the library or delay its opening or to close it early if needed. So we look at a couple of different things when we use to make that decision. We look at the National Weather Service, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency, and the County Emergency Operations Center. Some of those overlap for information to make our decision about facility closures. It's different from the county, as one thing that we hear sometimes when you see Johnson County government closed, and then the library is separately closed or open. And that's because the library is not listed as an essential service, and of course there are essential services within the county, and that's why it is different, because some of those departments, offices, and agencies are essential services. One important note in all of this as well is that it does not affect our online services. This is simply for buildings themselves. And then we do look at others within the region, things like public school districts, other regional library systems as well, and kind of what they're doing to try to help make that the most educated decision we can for the safety of patrons and our staff. Any questions?
Yes, I know we had talked, maybe it was last month, about being warming centers, and at what point do we keep it open, what point do we close? Do we have any specifics on that?
Go ahead. I think it's a topic that's coming up later.
So when we close the library to the public for weather, that's kind of where Ben is discussing as far as how we make those decisions. And we are always cognizant of when we close in bad weather, we're also taking a warming center or 14 warming centers off the list for people. And so we're balancing putting staff, patrons on the roads with bad weather, and as well as not being a warming center. So it is definitely a community problem, a community issue. It's not just libraries that act as warming centers or are seen as a possibility. So we don't have a great solution for that big picture. Later in the agenda, there's an item for the next 2 or 3 months possible solution for holidays, not necessarily when we're closed for bad weather. So there's 2 different categories. So does that help set those apart?
Yeah.
Thank
Other
you, Ben.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to sign up for Ben's alert you about the weather texts, that is reserved for admin only, and so we all know when the weather's happening, which we're very thankful for. Every time it happens, and Ben apologizes, sorry for so many texts, but I have to get them information out. So a couple of the updates. So library board conference attendance. Every year there are library conferences, and we offer those to library board members. Charles will be attending the annual conference. That will be in Philadelphia this summer, and several of you have attended that, so you can fill him in with all of your tips and tricks and how many bags to bring. Kelly Kilgore. And so we'll probably at the very beginning of 25, we'll start seeing those conferences get scheduled for 26. So if you're interested in a particular conference, or you're interested in our recommendations, we can certainly give you those as well. Conferences usually open their hotels and all that stuff pretty early, so it may seem like we're ahead of the game. We want to make sure that you are available and interested, and then we can match you with the right conference. So conference attendance. And then E on our updates is the patron printing deposits update. You may recall in March of the library board meeting, you all approved a contract to move to a brand new printing system and public PC and point of sale solution for patrons. And so that transition based on that contract has been completed. One part of this is just for information, so you're kind of aware of some of the particulars. In that old system, we allowed patrons to load money onto the system to use for printing, and they could keep a balance. So it might be 10 cents, it might be $10. When we were doing that, we did not have other great electronic ways for payment. Since those electronic payment methods have really increased and are very popular and accessible, we are phasing this option out. So we will no longer be allowing patrons to keep a balance on their account for future printing. Patrons will have until May 1st of 2025 to use any of those current balances to draw those down. And then after May, we will discontinue that service. Any patron with a balance over $5 as of May 1st, we will cut a check for the remainder of that balance. So we're given about 6 months to draw that down and use it if they're interested and want to, and then we'll cut a check after that, after May 1st, they've had a chance to do that. And then we're talking about all kinds of working through other options about communicating this change with our patrons in each branch in the moment, as well as returning those funds to their owners. We all know that sometimes it costs a lot to cut a check, and so there's a balance there. We're working with our county partners in treasury, taxation, and vehicles. They are skilled at this and have a lot of experience, so no board action is needed. This is really for information only. It's a part of what you approved this past March. So,
Tricia, but even with this new system, acknowledging that electronic means are more widely available and accessible to folks, but still realizing that some folks may not have access to that. Could people still pay for printing with cash and coins?
yes.
And Tricia, do we know, or do we have an estimate how many patrons have balances? In the hundreds, in the thousands,
Yes.
in the dozens?
I'm glad you asked, Kelly. So there are about 7,000 accounts that are under $5. The average of those 7,000 accounts are about 80 cents. So it's low money, and you can imagine if you came in and you printed something and you put $2 in, there might have been 20 cents left over and you just left it on your account thinking you'd be back some other point. So that kind of gives you an idea of those numbers. The other part of that is you may have printed something in the library 10 years ago and you moved and we don't have your contact information. So there's a slice of, we want to get that money back to you and we need to have your contact information for that. So, all right, any other questions on? And then I'm going to turn it over to Anna for the last update.
Thank you, appreciate it. So I wanted to give the board and the public a little bit of an update on where we go from here in terms of our performance appraisal process for our head librarian. So in November, we met an executive session to approve a merit increase for Tricia, and that was announced at the end of our board meeting last month. Chrissy and Charles and I got together earlier today to talk about where do we go from here, and so we're going to be putting this together in a nice little package for the board, but here's our recommendations going forward. We would like Tricia to put together your proposed goals and objectives for 2025 and make that available to the board by the time of our January board meeting. We would like to have an opportunity to meet in executive session with the board to review your recommendations, but also so that the board can chime in, add to, make other suggestions in terms of what we'd like the focus to be for next year. That will all get wrapped up and finalized by February. Between February and March, we also would like to work with our HR partner, Shayla. We understand that the survey that is submitted to staff managers is very lengthy. It, on average, takes more than an hour for our associates to complete feedback on the librarian. We think that's too much. That's a burden on people, and so we want to work with HR to call that down and to really focus on the questions that are most relevant to help us understand how she's doing throughout the year. So that'll be our initiative, February, March timeframe. Then in May, with the new class, potentially new class of board members and new officers, we propose establishing the 2025 appraisal committee at that time, rather than waiting until October. And the reason we want to establish the new committee earlier in the season is because we like to start meeting with the librarian on a quarterly basis or some cadence throughout the year, not only to provide support to the librarian but also, so that this appraisal committee has more of a hands-on knowledge of what's going on, so that when appraisal time comes around, we're not operating, a little bit in a vacuum, right? So we want to be more involved and engaged as time goes on, and we think having an informal quarterly touch point with the librarian will really help with the year-end process for 2025. And I think that's it, Charles. I know Chrissy's on the phone. I don't know if she can chime in, or did I miss anything? So that's what we would like to propose and what we'd like to have happen next year.
Thanks, Anna and Charles and Chrissy, for all your work on that. It's going to be a much improved process and beneficial to all involved.
That wraps up the county librarian updates.
Okay, so we can move on to the consent agenda. There's quite a few things on the consent agenda, most of it which we saw last board meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move the library board of directors approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And on to new business. Seeing as there's no old business, on to new business, and we have an action item for the contract for sale of the Antioch property. Tricia, are you taking that one?
Yes. So you have before you a briefing sheet about authorizing the contract for the sale of the Antioch Library properties. The amount of the contract is 3.93000, and this came about through a partnership with the City of Merriam. As Fred mentioned earlier, we talked about the administrative regulation that allows this sale versus selling or putting the property on open market. The contract was approved by the City of Merriam on Monday night, and you can see the contract lays out the due diligence time and closing date. This was an as-is sale for all four parts of there's four properties. We would have an inspection time as well as a closing period. And I will stand for any questions.
No, I don't have any questions, but I think to just address his, I mean, I think, in my mind, it was, I think the land that we've got is probably more valuable than what was there, who knows, but, I mean, I know some of the questions that came up, or at least in my mind, was whether we put it out to open bid. And, and as I thought through from last meeting to this meeting, it was, in my mind, is, yeah, we probably could have, maybe we get more, maybe not, but I thought even if that would have come up again, it would have been in fairness to what Merriam did for us, that, yeah, if Merriam wants it, this is I think a fair price, and that's why I'm in favor of this.
Well, I guess I'll say it sounds like a great deal, great offer. I feel like the decision to move forward with this was really rushed. I believe that talking about what to do with the Antioch was supposed to be on our October retreat agenda, and it wasn't on there, so we didn't really have a chance to discuss it in a more relaxed, kind of a brainstorming way. So I feel like we did ourselves a little bit of a disservice by not discussing it even just a month and a half ago. When I think about our November meeting, we spent more time in the executive session talking about a merit increase for our librarian than we had to contemplate the details of this offer. So we had 30 minutes to talk about the librarian's performance review. We had 20 minutes to talk about this offer. And even at the beginning of this board meeting, the note was made that 4 people really were behind sort of crafting this deal. The BOCC chair, the county manager, or someone in the county manager's office, someone from the city, and our head librarian. And it doesn't sound like, and it doesn't feel like, anyone from the actual board, who is the actual property owner, was involved in any of those deliberations. And so I'm about to be corrected on that, but I feel like if that is true, that's a pretty big miss. And I don't know that we've conducted our own independent due diligence. So part of the plan with Lackman and the agreement that we had established with the broker was they could be on standby to help us do an appraisal of the Antioch property. And I don't know that we've gone through that process ourselves. We've taken the appraisal that the city has provided us, and we might agree that it seems reasonable, but we don't know. We haven't heard from the developer across the street what they might offer. We don't know if there's more value in breaking up the property or keeping it whole. And so I feel like there's just a lot for us to think about as we contemplate even our clump refresh, right? And so we might say, well, what are we gonna do with this property? Are we gonna park our vans over there? Like, really, are we gonna not take a $4 million deal for something less than, but we're about to embark on a long-term strategic view of how do we serve the county over the next 15 to 20 years, and we're sitting on a gold mine, but yet we're gonna move to sell it after only a 20-minute discussion or presentation a month ago. So it might be the best deal, I don't know, but I don't feel like as a board we've had the opportunity to really explore what is truly in the best interest for library patrons and our citizens. And for that reason, I'm going to be voting no.
I have a comment to make.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Okay, so I would like to start by saying, I'm sorry I'm not there, everyone, so Merry Christmas early. But first, what I would like to speak on behalf of this is that a couple things. First is we have Fred and the other people in their roles to do the job that we need them to do. And part of that job is for them to be having these discussions, having these leads or opportunities turned into them, and them be meeting with these people to begin these conversations on our behalf. So first of all, I think that it's not appropriate for us to be frustrated or to say anything disrespectful in that regards. So I just want to make sure that that's very, that someone is saying thank you for the leadership that is being done and the conversations being done. Second of all, I am happy to recuse myself from the vote if needed. I actually have some knowledge of what is specifically happening there that accidentally happened this week. I'm happy to recuse myself. I think we're gonna be very happy with being involved in letting this opportunity happen. Also, real estate is not in a great place right now. Commercial real estate is very difficult. It's really difficult to move land. It's really difficult to move space right now. And this offer is coming to us basically as a cash offer, a fast close, because the people that are taking it are going to be really great for the community, and they're moving very quickly and swiftly. It has nothing to do with us losing an opportunity. So I think we should be very careful and be very considerate of this offer. I don't think we will see another offer this good for 5 years or more.
Thanks, Chrissy. Yeah. I felt comfortable with this after our executive session. I'm thinking specifically about all the projects that we have that we want to do, specifically Corinth and all these things that we have sort of slated for the very near future, and I just feel like this is a unexpected and welcome opportunity for us.
Yeah, it puts money in our coffers to continue building on our comprehensive library master plan and do the things we need to do. And I'll just say too, Anna, I've had some initial discussions with those parties, just gauging the interest of if the county was behind the sale to Miriam, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the selling it back to Miriam for $1. We would love to be able to do that. And we're not really comparing apples to apples, understanding you did donate the land, City of Miriam donated the land for the library. Up to this point, I think we've had all the land donated for libraries through our public service or public good. And in this case, with the sale of Antioch, it's not going to the highest bidder for some private enterprise to come in. It's going to the city to benefit the city and county residents, which in turn benefits all of us and the patrons of the library as well.
Does anybody else have anything to add? I was just saying, as far as, I mean, I know you felt rushed. I think I've thought through this from going back to the Lackman days of what would we have done with Lackman, and we kind of went down the road with, you know, potential friends that was considered, and all the thought of how much it would cost to get that up to code and stuff. And we didn't do that same analysis here, but I think there's probably, I personally do not see a scenario where we would use that building. You know, Lackman at least, it's a little bit further away, but it's so close to the new building. And I can't see, I think if we put a second library within a half a mile of the other one, I think we would get equally criticized, and I think I'd be fun to do that as well.
I'm not suggesting a second
Right.
library a block away. There's lots of other things that we're thinking about, right, in terms of the long-term vision. So
I don't know. I don't see any long-term vision of that library. But maybe, I mean, I could be wrong on that. I just don't see it. So I think getting rid of it is in our best interest now. I think the difference is what price do we get. I know we asked Fred, but I think there was an independent appraisal, correct, Tricia? Right?
That's correct.
Right. So it wasn't just us throwing a dart and Marion throwing a dart, and we actually happen to land on the same spot, and therefore there's the amount. Because I don't know commercial real estate at all. And you know, my thought was, you know, because I know that some developers are interested in it, but in my mind, coming into this meeting is, you know, if, in fairness of Marion, because they have been great partners on Antioch, then, you know, this is a fair price and this is a fair price. So I will be quiet now, and I will be voting yes.
Same feelings from me, especially after what we learned when we went through the sale of Lackman, the struggles that we encountered there. We have a great relationship with the City of Miriam. This is something that is changing hands within our county, and it's a great opportunity for us to offload this vacant space that we no longer have any use for, and still benefit the members of this county in both ways.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that pursuant to RM 50-20-70B, the library board resolves to sell the Antioch library properties by private sale. Therefore, I move that the library board approve the real estate sale contract for sale of the Antioch library properties to the City of Miriam, Kansas in the amount of $3,930,000, and authorize the county librarian to take the steps necessary to consummate the transaction as provided in contract section 10.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Right, I have the next action item as well. And so this is, Jenny had asked her question, I had referenced, and I think Ben also referenced this. I've been asked by the county manager's office to develop a proposal for potentially the library remaining open on the, I'll call them winter holidays. We're talking about Christmas, New Year's Day, and Martin Luther King Day, as a warming center, because the county buildings are closed on that day. And of course, this would be in anticipation of or only used if the temperature reached extreme levels. What extreme is, we haven't quite defined yet, but that's a detail to be worked out. And so with the timing, I am still in discussions with other of my colleagues at the county about what are other options on those 3 holidays when county buildings are closed. What could be other options besides or in addition to libraries remaining open? And so with the timing, I am asking for for you to delegate that authority to me to continue those discussions, figure out those details, and then to make that decision if all the stars align and library is the right choice for the county. You might remember we were in a similar situation and conversation January of last year about using Lackman. And so we kind of use that as a basis for some of our discussions. We also are using a structure that the elections office and county HR developed for election support if a recount was needed. And that lays out how do you plan for staff, what's the pay, all of those kind of staffing details. So we're working with county HR as well, using those examples. So I will stand for question, and there's a lot of details that I won't have, but I can try to fill in what I know.
Yeah, Tricia, I'm just trying to understand why this is necessary. I thought we previously kind of gave you authority to do that. In general practice, outside of holidays, when you don't make the decision to use the library as a warming center, right? You get a request from the county and then you kind of yes or no, or are you making those decisions?
When we're open, when the library's open, we are just always a warming.
Right, no, I'm saying in a situation where the library's closed or after library hours.
Right.
And the county needs a warming center, that's a request that comes to you from the county, right? Or are you making those decisions?
It has been and then earlier in January, those requests came from the camp.
Right. Yeah, that's my understanding.
And last year, you all granted me the authority for a couple weeks so we could figure out the specifics, but it ended.
Okay.
I think it was from the January board meeting till the February board meeting.
Because we were anticipating that cold weather.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Some of the reality is with our weather, it may not be needed on Christmas Day, so we're just trying to figure out how do we get a plan in place to be proactive, so that if this is something that the board's interested in, we can move on it. We don't have to have a special meeting, those types of things. So, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it says a library location, so are you thinking just one? I'm assuming probably central?
I am thinking one. Some of the discussions with my county partners are, does it make sense to have one in the north part of the county, one in the south? Looking at bus routes, looking at all of those pieces to figure out what's the best place. I also thought originally this building, when we look at the numbers, and Dave helped me out with the salary, looking at minimal staffing for this building would be 7 people. Minimal staffing for Oak Park, or any smaller, is of course less people. So that's a factor when I'm thinking through that. And of course, it would be voluntary. If we go down this path, we would offer it to staff if they wanted to work. It would not be mandatory in any way.
Yeah, I'm from hospital land.
Yes.
Where we do time and a half on
Yes.
these big holidays.
Yes.
So some kind of incentive, because I know that would be a really tough ask, but there is a need.
Right.
Right. And Oak Park would be another good one.
Right. It's also on a bus route, and there's many other
Close to
possibilities.
10, 20,
Right.
so.
And it's not only the library that's involved in this conversation. Lots of other county departments are trying to put their head together and understand how do we maybe meet a little need in these very specific extreme temperature situations. Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it. I know last year, it seemed like a good idea, but it was so rushed. It was like, all right, how are you gonna pull this off? One day's notice thing. So I'm glad
Yes,
we're thinking ahead so that it, cause I think last year, Martin Luther King, I think it was like the -5, -10.
Yes.
Where it's
It was-
just brutal,
yes,
brutal,
extreme
brutal.
temperatures.
So it's nice that we're doing it so that we don't have, cause I mean, I think, I was in favor of opening it up, but I think you had made the wise decision of, you know, it's not just so easy just to open it up and boom, there it is. And
Yeah, we really need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
We are ahead of it a little bit this year. I'm very interested in being even more ahead of it next year. And for me, this would be whichever county entity acts as a warming center on those days when the county is typically closed. I really see this as a test, you know, like, let's try it out and see. For me, it does not obligate us to do this forever. It's a year by year, case by case basis. So I know that is maybe a possible pitfall with the community, that if we've done it once, we should and will continue to do it. I don't see it that way. I feel like you all have the authority to try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it may not be a match for us. And there might be other options in coming years, so. Commissioner Allenbrand.
And I'm sure you're aware that they're reaching out to all the churches as well, so I'm hoping maybe that there'll be some other people that step up that are more able to handle, so, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, and that's similar to what happened last year. When the ask came, and yes, I know there are lots of community partners, and they're part of that discussion of what are those other options, so.
There are no further questions. Can I get a motion?
I'll go. Okay, I move to authorize that the library board approve the county librarian to take measures to open a library location in partnership with Johnson County in the event of an extreme weather event of any of the following dates: December 25th, 2024, January 1st, 2025, and or January 20th, 2025.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll have Adam Wathen with our next item.
Hello, I'm bringing two different information items. We'll bring these for action in January. I'm bringing the Memorandum of Understanding with Johnson County Genealogical Society. We have a long-standing relationship with Johnson County Genealogical Society. They provide genealogy services and volunteer staffing in our library space here at Central Resource Library, and in recent years they're providing memory lab services, and you saw a report from them about those memory lab services within the last year, I believe. The MOU has been updated to include some support for the room booking and storage of the technology for memory lab services and some of their space use. Any questions about the MOU and update? The second one is the Memorandum of Understanding with Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas, of course, is a longstanding partner for us as well. We offer lunches in the summer to the public in our Central Resource Library and for up to 5 days a week. Historically, we also offered breakfast service with them at the Antioch location, and we are currently working with Catholic Charities to see if we can do something in our Marion Falls location, but the space is significantly different, and so we're exploring ways that we can still collaborate and offer that kind of service. So the MOU change is mostly descriptive, and it's going into more detail regarding what the services are from Catholic Charities and how they legally describe their services. It's not a significant change in practice. So if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those. Thank you.
Right, and then I'll welcome Ben. He will take the next two agenda items. Jen is out today.
Hello, Ben Zuntz again. And the first one on the list is our Memorandum of Understanding will come up for renewal. It'll come for action next month with ETI Ames, which is the Johnson County Department of Technology and Innovation Automated Information Mapping System. Yes, I did have to take an acronym quiz to get this job. And the changes recommended for this next year are to move the MOU out to 2 years, because we've been renewing it every year, and we've seen very minor changes each year, year over year. And the second one that's noteworthy is that the software that they buy, that they also use, is they want the option to pass licensing fees on to us when we have license that we use based on the software that they purchase, which we thought was probably reasonable. Any questions on this one? Okay. The second one, as Tricia said, Jen couldn't be here today, so she sends her regards, and it is the renewal of the memorandum of understanding with Interurban Art House. I believe this is the first renewal of it. I think we went to this last year, if you recall. In the analysis section of the briefing sheet, you'll see that the updates include not only the date, the updated library names. Of course, the updated library names are Antioch to Miriam Plaza. Updated terms, and then getting rid of the 25% down payment requirement. Our staff believes the partnership's been successful and recommend the continuation of this MOU. And it'll also be on the list for action next year, which is also next month. Any questions on this?
Yes, we're pretty happy we're pretty happy with what they've done, and freed up some time for whoever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, I think the short answer is it's been a significant freeing of staff hours to do other things, to have someone else curate. And it's been working well. Okay, thank you.
Right, and then I'll invite Dave Rodney for another information item.
Hello, just here to go over the couple changes we're wanting to make to the MOU that we have with our partners over at Financial Management Administration. They do our payroll services. We've had an ongoing budgeted arrangement with them going back to 2020, so it's about a 5-year arrangement that we have. Just a couple changes. The major one in here is just moving to like a 3-year arrangement with them to cover years 2025, 2026, 2027. We feel like this has been working well. There isn't a clause in there if we end up running into some issues where we need to reverse that. There is a 90-day written notice that could get us out of that arrangement if necessary. But other than that, the rest of the changes are fairly minor. So willing to answer any questions you might have with regards to that arrangement or this MOU. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And then we will finish up with Lacey and the consideration of the collection development policy. As Lacey comes to the podium, I do want to just say the partnerships that we have, as you heard today, and with other county entities, just have really been invaluable to the library. It's a really great example of the expertise in those departments and how we really collaborate and use those folks. We couldn't do it without them. So thank you to all of those different county departments and agencies that help us out. Take it away, Lacey.
Thanks for everything tonight. My name is Lacey Griffin, and I am the Collection Development Manager, and I will be presenting on the Collection Development Policy Update. The Collection Development Policy states the purpose of the library's collection and delineates how we manage the collection within our system. It is broken into sections defining our clientele, the formats in which we carry, the subjects we include, and how we accept gifts for the collection. It also explains our request for reconsideration process. The Collection Development Department reviews the document in its entirety every 2 years. Here are the members of the Collection Development Department. We oversee the collection and purchasing of all the circulating materials, both digital and physical, for the Johnson County system. We also have members that represent cataloging, acquisitions, tech services, and digital access. Digital access is one of the new positions that we were able to get from a PRC request maybe 2 years ago now. And during COVID, we really noticed that having one person looking at our digital collection and curating it and taking care of it maybe wasn't enough. So we've separated that job into two different jobs. And so the new digital access part actually focuses on the patron's experience getting to the digital collection and what kind of barriers would cause them that. As a team, we ensure the library is meeting its mission to provide access to materials and support and enrich people's lives. This means carrying multiple formats in both digital and physical and constantly evaluating the materials throughout the patron's experience. We want to limit the amount of barriers that patrons may be facing when using the library, whether it's in the catalog or the shelving layout or even the technology that's needed to access different information our materials contain. We use many forms of assessment to guide us in these evaluations. We look at costs associated with materials, both for the library and for the patron, compare digital usage and physical usage to determine if we need to carry both formats or if one is more user-friendly than the other. We receive 50 to 100 weekly suggestions for purchases from patrons and staff, and also interlibrary loan requests from the community. We receive marketing and sales data from major publishers, and we research awards, reviews, media, social media accounts at both the local and national levels. Later in 2025, I'll be back reporting on the 2024 collection statistics and where our total expenditures and checkouts landed for the year. In addition to our daily analysis, we are looking forward to adding a few additional assessments over the next 4 years. In 2025, we are set to have our next diversity audit scheduled with iCreate Inclusive. We completed a diversity audit back in 2021, and at that time we determined that we wanted to do this about every 3 to 5 years to compare results and to see where we're moving on the scale. So 2025 will be exactly 4 years, so right in the middle of that time period we wanted. In 2026, we plan to work with the Olathe Public Library on a patron survey. They actually did one this year at the very beginning of the year and had some success with it. So we're gonna not completely reinvent the wheel and work together with their collection development department so that we'll have a patron survey that'll hit everyone's patrons. And then we'll also be doing the collection development policy biannual review again then. In 2027, we plan to do a staff survey. It's been a little while since we've had our collection summit with our staff, and so we feel that is a really good survey to coattail after the patron survey. And then in 2028, we'll also have a collection development biannual review, and then we'll also be working on a new strategic plan. And I think all 3 of those assessments beforehand will really help us forecast into the next 5 years with that.
Yeah. Before you go on, so what will the survey ask the patrons? Like, do you feel like our collection is enough, or?
We don't know yet. There's some collections, we've gone through the results with the collection manager over at Olathe, and some of the questions that worked really well, and some of them that didn't really give any insight into the use of the collection. So I would imagine there's probably gonna be some formats, maybe also how many people have used Libby, haven't used Libby, do you have a phone, do you not have a phone, do you stream, do you have a DVD player, do you have a gaming system? I figure a lot of those will probably fall into that realm too. We're having a lot of interesting things forecasted for the next 5 years on what formats are kind of dying. And we know that there's some, we know CD audiobooks are very highly used and are very hard to purchase and not being really made anymore. So we're trying to figure out where patrons are with that and what kind of things we can even work with programming to maybe like help patrons move, help patrons as different things are no longer being able to be bought.
Yes, especially with our aging population here. I have a question. Will we be presented with highlights from those surveys? Because I'm really curious about that.
Yes, so we have it scheduled for June is when we're handing over our holdings, and so it will probably be 3rd, 4th quarter-ish when I'll have the results immediately present.
And I think you guys should be really proud of your collection. Everyone does a good job, and shout out to Elena, because I love the graphic novel collections that we have. She should be very proud of it. Thank you.
We have a lot of people who have presented nationally that are on the team, and they're very good experts. It's great to be their manager. I appreciate it a lot. They're a very strong team. So thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing the diversity audit. I think just now with the whole book banning and stuff, and I think just to make people aware that, yeah, we're not just getting a bunch of books that, you know, that are controversial. It's everything. Maybe it's controversial to everybody, right?
Equal opportunity controversial.
Equal opportunity. All right. So this will bring us back to the collection development policy update for this year. And these are some of the changes that we wanted to do after making a full review by the team in 2024. So the first one's kind of easy. So we want to update the strategic plan. Right now, the plan, the policy talks about the old strategic plan, so we need to update it to the 2024 to 2028 documentation. We have business reference. We now actually include in our primary reference, and a lot of it has moved to online databases and in the circulating collection, giving more access to patrons. So we want to kind of switch that business reference part of it and reference more the primary reference in online databases. We want to add a local author collection. We've had a lot of different local authors want to be able to donate works, and sometimes those don't fit into the normal criteria for what kind of book we would normally purchase, and so this would actually expand us being able to take some. One of the examples is that if we have there's a local engineering firm that made a female empowerment engineering picture book, but it's a paperback and it's stapled together, and so if we try to put that with the other picture books, it's going to disappear or get stuck inside of a book. Different things like that we normally wouldn't put in the collection, but we still want to be able to focus and be able to have available to the public. Those are type of things we're doing in that. We updated some of the outdated review sources, professional journals, company names, department names, and terminology. One example of the terminology is in the collection development policy now. It refers to collections that are in other languages as foreign languages, and so we'd like to update that to world languages. We would like to remove the references to microfilm. We don't collect microfilm anymore, and we're in the process of digitizing all of the microfilm, so it is not a preferred format. It is very hard to have a microfilm reader that works. Even the state library no longer has microfilm, so we're working on digitizing that. We want to add e-newspapers as part of the e-resource format. We updated our partnerships that we have with the local history collection. We're working with the Johnson County Museum for archives and things like that. And then the last two they have to do with the arms that were already updated. So we wanted to update the federal depository part that reflects the approved changes from ARM 30-2020. And then we want to update in the appendix, we have just a copy of ARM 10-2010, the Library Bill of Rights that was approved earlier this year too. All right, these were all informational today. This will come up for a vote in the January meeting for adaptation. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much, Lacey. I know this, the process of going over the collection development policy, you all take very seriously and give yourselves plenty of time to have those conversations and look at the ripples of what those changes might be. So I really appreciate your department's work on that. That is all of the new business. I'll turn it back over.
That's all we have for today. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move the library board of directors adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Happy holidays, everyone. See you in the new year.
Oh, yeah, thank you, yeah, I just, you know, I'm just, maybe top 5 things going on in the library.
I just went up to the librarian and told
Thank you. I was gonna come here, but then I
go ahead.
Yeah. Now I am over that, so like I can't even
I was saying, if you want, you can leave your stuff in here, or you can put it in my office. Okay, all right, perfect. So if you want to grab this. Oh, and then. You grab two? Okay.